For years, NATO's eastern borders have braced for a conventional threat. But in 2025, Russia is moving in on NATO, not with tanks, but with a relentless surge of mystery flights, transponders off, shadowed by RAF Typhoons scrambling 15 times since April, and Il-20M spy planes mapping every corner of the Baltic airspace. In just 1 week this June, 4 intercepts, the next, 6 more. Behind each scramble, a calculated campaign from Kaliningrad that stretches NATO to its limits and signals Moscow's next move. The drills look routine, until you ask why they keep accelerating and what comes after the next alarm. So, are these just Cold War echoes, or the opening moves in a more dangerous game? 15 scrambles since April, each one triggered by a blip on a radar screen, a silent aircraft skirting the edge of NATO airspace. The numbers alone tell the story. 4 intercepts in the first week of June, 6 more the next. No warning, no flight plan. Transponders switched off. Controllers at NATO's regional air defense centers work in shifts that blur together, watching for patterns in the chaos. Their job isn't just to spot intruders, but to decide, in seconds, whether a shadow on the screen is a lost civilian, a routine Russian patrol, or something more calculated. Inside these command rooms, every alert means dozens of calls, scramble orders to Typhoons in Poland, Eurofighters in Germany, F-35s on the Norwegian coast. Each launch drains fuel, racks up maintenance hours, and pushes pilots and ground crews to the edge of their endurance. The pace is relentless. Some days, jets return to base only to be sent out again within hours. Controllers track each sortie on wall-sized maps, logging intercept times, flight paths, and radio exchanges. Patterns emerge. Russian aircraft flying dark, hugging international boundaries, forcing NATO to react, but never quite crossing the line that would demand a stronger response. For the men and women directing these missions, the surge isn't just about numbers. It's about the strain on resources, the risk of miscalculation, and the knowledge that each scramble is a test of readiness, of discipline, of the alliance's ability to hold the line under mounting pressure. Il-20M reconnaissance flights from Kaliningrad now trace deliberate arcs over the Baltic Sea, always just outside NATO airspace, rarely answering hails. These planes bristle with antennas, their mission clear to anyone studying the flight logs: collect signals, map radar coverage, and listen for Allied chatter. RAF Typhoon pilots stationed in Poland know the drill. When the call comes, they launch with minutes to spare, racing east to meet the intruder before it can slip away. The intercept routine is well practiced. Typhoons pull alongside, cameras rolling, weapons live but never armed. The Russian crews keep their faces hidden, instruments running, recording every frequency and response. Each encounter is more than a show of force. The Il-20M's path is plotted to cross known radar seams, testing where one NATO sector hands off to another. Ground-based emitters in Kaliningrad, part of the Tobol network, are often active during these sorties, flooding the airwaves with jamming and spoofing signals. Civil aviation authorities in Estonia and Finland have logged GPS outages that line up almost perfectly with Il-20M patrol windows. For Typhoon pilots, the real work starts after landing. Debriefings run late into the night, as intelligence officers compare radar tracks, electronic logs, and cockpit recordings, looking for patterns in Russian behavior. Each sortie adds another layer to the map, a blueprint of NATO's defenses, drawn in invisible ink by Russian hands. The pattern is systematic, not accidental. These are not random provocations, they are rehearsals, each one probing for a weakness that might matter in the next crisis. February 2025 brought a 3-day stretch in the Barents Sea that Norwegian pilots won't soon forget. On the morning of February 4th, radar stations near Bodo tracked the approach of a Russian Tu-95 MS bomber group, flanked by MiG-31BM and Su-34 escorts. The alert went out before sunrise. Within minutes, Royal Norwegian Air Force F-35As were airborne, climbing through low Arctic clouds to intercept. The Russian formation held a steady course, paralleling Norwegian airspace, but never crossing the line. Radio calls went unanswered. The bombers' engines droned at high altitude, their fighter escorts weaving just behind. Norwegian ground controllers, monitoring every move, relayed vectors and threat updates in clipped Norwegian and English. The same pattern repeated on February 5th and 6th. Each day, the Russian group launched from Alenia or Engels air bases, flying long arcs over the Barents and Norwegian seas. Each time, Norwegian F-35s met them over international waters, matching speed and altitude. The intercept logs show a relentless pace: 3 consecutive scrambles, hours spent on station, and dozens of radio exchanges recorded. For the Norwegian pilots, it was a test of endurance and discipline. For the Russian crews, a demonstration of reach. These encounters weren't accidents, they were deliberate signals, each one logged and analyzed by both sides. Norwegian pilots in the Arctic rely on more than sharp eyesight and fast reflexes. Their F-35As bring a different kind of advantage to these high north intercepts. A cockpit fed by streams of radar, infrared, and electronic signals, all fused into a single, real-time picture. When a Russian Tu-95 bomber group approaches, flanked by MiG-31BM escorts, the F-35 sensors don't just spot the bombers. They track the escorts even when they slip behind cloud banks or fly dark, outside radar line of sight. The aircraft's distributed aperture system, paired with electronic support measures and data link feeds, lets Norwegian crews see beyond the horizon and share tracks instantly across the NATO network. In February 2025, when Russian formations pressed along the Barents and Norwegian seas, Norwegian F-35s maintained contact with every aircraft in the group, identifying, classifying, and relaying positions to Allied controllers hundreds of miles away. This sensor fusion edge means the Norwegians aren't just reacting to what's in front of them. They're building a complete map of the airspace, predicting moves, and closing gaps before Russian crews even know they're being watched. In the Arctic, where weather and distance favor surprise, this technology tilts the balance back in NATO's favor. On the night of September 9th, air traffic controllers in Poland watched their screens fill with unfamiliar tracks. 19 Russian drones, moving west from the Belarusian border. Within minutes, alerts rippled through the region. Airports in Warsaw, Modlin, and Gdansk suspended departures. Civilian pilots struggled to maintain navigation as GPS signals flickered and dropped, the interference traced to ground-based jammers in Kaliningrad. For hours, radar and radio chatter overlapped, controllers rerouting airliners, military jets scrambling to intercept, and emergency crews on standby in case debris fell near populated areas. By dawn, 4 drones had been shot down by Dutch F-35s under NATO command. The rest either crashed or veered off course, some landing deep in Polish farmland. No warheads were found, but the message was unmistakable. In Oslo and Copenhagen, commercial flights sat idle on the tarmac after similar GPS outages forced groundings, disrupting business and stranding travelers. For the men and women managing the region's airspace, the line between military provocation and civilian crisis had blurred overnight. The rules that once separated war from peace were now harder to define, and every controller knew the next incursion could bring even greater risks. Poland's leadership did not wait for the next drone incursion to draw a new line. On August 12, 2025, the National Security Council issued a directive authorizing the immediate destruction of any unmanned aircraft violating Polish airspace. Defense Minister Szczerski signed the order after a late-night debate, making Poland the first NATO state to formalize shoot-down authority for drones on its eastern border. The message was clear: no more warnings, no more ambiguity. Lithuania's parliament followed within weeks, passing a statute that grants military units the power to down unlawful drones and close airspace sectors at a moment's notice. Both measures moved rapidly through legislative channels, reflecting a sense of urgency in Warsaw and Vilnius. On September 21st, the German Luftwaffe scrambled Eurofighters after a Russian An-30 survey plane ignored repeated hails over the Baltic Sea, coming dangerously close to a civilian airliner. That same week, NATO's Operation Eastern Sentry expanded its scope, integrating Allied air defense and surveillance assets across Poland, the Baltics, and the North Sea. For the first time, legal frameworks, military doctrine, and rapid response capabilities are aligned across the eastern flank. The era of observe and report is over. Now, every incursion is met with a layered, decisive response, one designed to deny Russia the advantage of ambiguity. Since April 2005, RAF Typhoons have scrambled over 15 times in the Baltic to intercept Russian aircraft flying with transponders off, often ignoring radio contact. February saw 3 straight days of Norwegian F-35s intercepting Tu-95 bombers and escorts over the Barents Sea, a pattern confirmed by NATO Aircom. In September 19-23, Russian drones violated Polish airspace, prompting rapid NATO responses and new rules authorizing drone shoot-downs in Poland and Lithuania. The alliance has made measurable shifts, more scrambles, updated air policing, and hardened legal authorities. Yet, much remains classified. The full scope of Russia's intelligence collection flights and the technical details behind GPS jamming are still undisclosed. What is clear, documented by incident logs and policy orders, is a marked escalation from Cold War-era probes to coordinated, multi-domain pressure on NATO's borders. As the official record shows, the contest for airspace integrity is no longer routine. It is now a central test of Allied resolve.